Hi Dragonflies, welcome back to Dragonfly Spirit Studio. I'm Lynn Bauer. This video is part of my series on painting skies and clouds in watercolor. If something in this video isn't clear to you because you missed an earlier video in this series, you don't have to search all over YouTube to find them. You can just go to my website at dragonflyspiritstudio.com and follow the links to learn and then watercolor skies and clouds. You'll find all the lesson and project videos out there in order as they're released. And there are templates for you to work from, reference photos, cheat sheets and handouts, information on supplies and materials. Everything that you need to do the course is all there in one place. In previous lessons, we've talked about several different methods that we can use for dealing with different types of clouds. We talked about how to use wet and wet techniques to paint darker clouds on a lighter value sky. We talked about lifting clouds out of a wash. We talked about negative painting to leave our white clouds in a darker value sky. But the key to building more complex skies is what we're going to do in this video, and that's multiple cloud layers with multiple layers of washes. So in project 1, we created our graded wash by laying our colors in multiple layers so we could control carefully where each color transition took place and how dark it was and whether we wanted to add some more or move it around. And that gave us a lot of control over our underlying graduated wash. In the same way, we can lay multiple layers of clouds into our painting by doing multiple glazes. So many times you look into the sky and you see clouds at different altitudes moving in different ways, having different kinds of light on them. And the key to being able to build a sky that has all of that going on is don't try to do it all at once. Do it in multiple layers just like it occurs in nature. So in this video, I'm going to do just a very quick example where we do 3 layers, but obviously you can do as many layers as you like. And this is going to be the thing that opens up the possibility to do more complicated skies without having to handle everything all at once. Here's an example of a sky that we might think of as being in sort of 3 layers. There's the base color of the sky that goes from cooler bluish gray at the zenith towards a warmer tone near the horizon on the right side, although it stays a little bit grayer towards the horizon on the left. And then there are some distant clouds, high clouds, that are sort of flat swaths of blue-gray color. And then there are these sort of puffy dark clouds in the lower altitudes or in the foreground for us. So we'll tackle this in 3 washes, and as always, keep in mind that we're working on a small sheet and wet and wet effects happen at their own scale. So we're only going to approximate the idea. If you wanted to actually capture all of the details of the sky that we're looking at as our reference, then you would probably want to work larger. But we're going to use that as our inspiration and create sort of a simpler version of it, but still using those 3 washes. So I have a cooler blue-gray here that I'm going to begin with in my graduated wash. So my first layer will just be this graduated wash going from a cooler blue-gray to a warmer gray or a buff tone near the horizon. And then I'll bring in some cool gray again at the bottom of the painting, which would be underneath the landforms themselves. We'll let the first wash dry, and then we'll come back and, as we always do, re-wet the page so that it's uniformly wet. Then we'll come back and with our cooler blue-gray add that higher altitude cloud layer, which we see just as a bit of a darker gray up near the zenith. And then we'll come down and add some of those streaky band-shaped or flat slab-like cloud layers that are in the higher altitudes. And then once again, we'll let all of this dry before we come back to do our next layer of clouds. Once again, we re-wet the page to make sure everything is uniformly wet. And then we'll just come back with a darker, just slightly warmer gray and drop in some suggestion of those little puffy foreground or lower altitude clouds. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, this is an awful lot of fussing around. We have to wait for things to dry, and then we wet them again, and we come back again, and why can't we just do this all in one go? And the answer is, you definitely can. And as you gain experience, especially with a smaller piece like this, you may decide to just do all three of these layers of clouds in one wash as it's drying. But the reason I'm demonstrating this technique is as the painting gets larger or the sky gets more complex, sometimes you just can't get to everything before things start to dry and you're not getting the effect that you want. Or sometimes the motion of the wind at different altitudes is in different directions and you want to tilt the page differently at different altitudes. And sometimes, especially if you're new to painting clouds and skies in watercolor, it's just too overwhelming to try to time everything right and deal with it all in one wash. So just know that anytime things are beginning to get a little overwhelming or things are drying too fast, you can always pause wherever you are, wait for things to dry completely, and then re-wet the page so that it's uniformly wet and continue with whatever you were doing and move on in a step-by-step way so that you have more control and you can be more relaxed about how you're doing things. So think of this as an overall strategy for painting skies, not as some hard and fast collection of rules that you absolutely must follow. As you practice with this, you'll get a better idea of what your preferences are about how much to try to do in a single wash. And probably at the beginning, you'll mess some up and keep working when you should have paused and let things dry. You'll get some blooms or some hard edges. That's okay. You have to have that experience to learn how you want to use this strategy in your paintings. So have fun with it and experiment and add clouds to previous paintings that you're not happy with so it's low stress and low stakes and you're not all worried about how it's going. And use as much or as little of it as suits your personality and your style of painting. This is just one more technique that you can throw into your arsenal of techniques, and you might use some of them in some paintings and lots of them in other paintings and nothing at all in other paintings. It's entirely up to you.